Hello, my name is Ryan, and I'm wondering if you know what these 5 famous role models and Donald Trump have in common. No? They all have obsessive-compulsive disorder, which is a rare but important psychological condition, commonly referred to as OCD. These celebrities, while living with OCD, have shown that a fruitful life is not only possible, but realistic. To help make everything clear, allow me to introduce you to my friend Logan. Logan is a factory worker frightened of catching a venereal disease from contaminated parts of his work area that he believed someone with this condition has touched. To avoid this, he engages in a number of protective behaviors, such as turning on taps using his elbows and waiting by doors so that someone else will open them. One day, the colleague he thought was contaminated has been in his work area. He washed his hands so much throughout the day that his skin turned raw. Logan is eventually diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder. OCD is a long-lasting and restricting condition. It typically involves intrusive thoughts, commonly known as obsessions, in which an individual believes some form of harm will occur if they do not perform a certain act or ritual. These acts or rituals are known as compulsions and can be physical behaviors or mental acts. The compulsions are aimed at preventing or reducing distress or preventing some dreaded event. However, they are excessive or not realistically connected to what they are intended to prevent. But hey, don't be alarmed. Everybody has atypical thoughts from time to time. They may even reoccur. This does not mean you have OCD, but what does? To be assigned a diagnosis of OCD, compulsions must cause marked distress, last at least 1 hour a day, or significantly interfere with a person's normal routine. The individual must realize that this obsession is unreasonable. An individual's compulsions are the symptoms that someone you know may have this disorder. The most common symptoms to note are repeated rechecking of appliances and reassurance seeking, ordering and counting, repetitive washing and cleaning, hoarding, and finally, replunging compulsions which display inappropriate behavior. The disorder affects 2 to 3% in the general population. It is rare and without sex difference. People with OCD are less likely to be married and more likely to be unemployed. Now that we know who OCD affects, do we know what causes this condition? The cognitive behavioral approach is a model theory that has the most scientific approval in explaining OCD. According to this model, obsessions and compulsions are the result of certain types of dysfunctional beliefs. The strength of these beliefs increases the risk that a person will develop OCD. The basis for this model is the well-established finding that most people in the general population experience strange thoughts from time to time. According to the cognitive behavioral model, these strange thoughts develop into an obsession if the person appraises it as being highly important or threatening. Such an appraisal causes distress and forces the affected person to try to suppress the unwanted thoughts. This causes a personal compulsion. Although, it is interesting to note that the suppression of unwanted thoughts is often futile and can even lead to the increased frequency in these thoughts. Tolan and his colleagues showed through the white bear experiment that people with OCD are worse at suppressing thoughts. In this experiment, the OCD group was compared against 2 control groups on their ability to suppress the thoughts of a white bear while thinking out loud. This graph shows that people with OCD had the biggest problem suppressing the thought of a white bear. As suppression leads to unwanted thoughts emerging more frequently, the cognitive behavioral model suggests that Logan's compulsions become stubborn and excessive. As Logan washes his hands, he was happy at the thought of protection from contamination. This makes reoccurrence of compulsions more likely. This process is known as negative reinforcement. In negative reinforcement, a behavior is strengthened by removing negative outcomes. The outcome seems pretty bleak, right? How can people with OCD escape this vicious cycle? Well, where there's a cognitive behavioral explanation, there's a cognitive behavioral treatment. This treatment combines the behavioral approach and the cognitive methods needed to treat OCD. In the behavioral approach, a technique known as exposure and response prevention can be performed on Logan. In this technique, Logan is exposed to his obsession. Next, he is given the assistance needed to prevent the use of the compulsions. We can contaminate Logan's hands with an item he perceives to be dangerous and assist him in coming to terms with not washing his hands. This may extinguish the fear response as he learns consequences don't necessarily occur if compulsions aren't completed. Clinical studies using this approach alone achieved moderate success, although this process only worked for less than half of those treated. Conversely, cognitive methods utilize techniques such as mind experiments, cognitive challenges, and thought stopping in order to reduce obsessions and therefore compulsions. These techniques will allow Logan to test the validity of his expectations, particularly focusing on the threat associated with his thoughts, counter some of the catastrophic thoughts that he may have by contextualizing them, and finally, make distraction a classically conditioned response that he can trigger when he feels overwhelmed by his anxiety-provoking thoughts. Clearly, both treatments could use some work. However, a combination of both approaches may be most effective. Teasdale suggests that Logan will see the best results if his cognitive changes made in therapy sessions are behaviorally validated. It seems clear that the best manner in which our friend Logan should treat his OCD is through cognitive behavioral therapy. If he is exposed to his obsession and prevented from using his learned coping mechanisms in dealing with this, then he could make progress. Logan will also need further therapy sessions in which he is given the correct cognitive tools to help keep his obsession suppressed, such as thought stopping. And who knows, someday we may see Logan in the list of role models we witnessed at the beginning.
created using Powtoon.